What if there were methods so powerful that billionaires pay consultants $100,000 just to learn them? Methods that could completely transform how anyone deals with fear forever. The brain of someone who's mastered their fears functions entirely differently than someone paralyzed by them. When people learn to rewire their neural pathways, success becomes almost inevitable. Here's something that might shock you. 97% of self-made millionaires admit they once felt crippling fear. The exact same fear you might be feeling right now. The difference? They discovered specific methods to transform that fear into unstoppable momentum. After extensive research into the psychological patterns of ultra-successful people, experts have uncovered remarkable insights about fear. These aren't normal techniques you've heard before. These are the underground, rarely discussed methods that the ultra-wealthy use but never talk about publicly. In the past 2 years alone, over 1,200 people have used just one of these methods to completely transform their financial situation. Imagine what you could do with all 12. By the end of this video, you'll have a complete blueprint for eliminating the fear that's been holding you back your entire life. But be warned, some of these methods will sound crazy. They'll challenge everything you've been taught about success. That's exactly why they work. Consider this. What would your life look like if fear simply disappeared? What decisions would you make differently? What actions would you take? Who would you become? That reality is closer than you think. These 12 methods have been battle-tested by the world's elite performers. And now, they're yours. This isn't about temporary motivation. This is about rewiring your brain for permanent, lasting change. So if you're ready to eliminate fear and achieve the massive success you deserve, let's dive into method number 1. Method 1. The fear reversal technique, the FAUS. Most successful people on the planet don't try to eliminate fear, they transform it. This first method is called the fear reversal technique, and it's revolutionized how the ultra-wealthy approach challenges. Here's how it works. When fear arises, most people try to suppress it or run from it. But the brain doesn't work that way. What you resist persists. Instead, the fear reversal technique teaches you to identify exactly what you're afraid of and deliberately amplify it. Let's look at a real example. When billionaire entrepreneur Sara Blakely was building Spanx, she faced crippling fear of rejection. Instead of avoiding it, she purposely sought it out. She would walk into department stores, pitch her product knowing she'd likely be rejected, and then celebrate the rejection. She trained her brain to see fear as a compass pointing toward growth. This is what separates the ultra-successful from everyone else. They don't eliminate fear, they befriend it. They understand that fear is simply misplaced excitement. The physiological response is almost identical. Increased heart rate, heightened awareness, surge of adrenaline. The practical application is this. Identify your biggest fear right now. Maybe it's asking for a promotion, starting that business, or making that investment. Now, instead of avoiding it, lean into it. Visualize the absolute worst-case scenario in vivid detail. Let yourself feel it completely. Then, ask yourself, what would I do if this happened? Create a specific plan. Most people discover that even the worst outcome is manageable. This mental rehearsal reprograms your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, to stop treating the unknown as a threat. Neuroscience. Research from Stanford University found that this technique reduces anxiety by up to 74% in just 2 weeks of practice. But here's the real secret. It works even better when combined with method number 2. Method 2, the 10x money vision. Most people set goals that don't excite them enough to overcome their fears. They aim for a 10% raise when they should be aiming for 10x their current income. The 10x money vision method was pioneered by wealth psychologists working with ultra-high net worth individuals. It involves creating a financial vision so compelling that it makes your fears seem insignificant by comparison. Grant Cardone, real estate mogul and billionaire, calls this thinking in multiples, not increments. When you set a goal to make $10,000 more this year, your brain doesn't produce enough motivation to overcome fear. But when you set a goal to make $1 million, your brain kicks into solution-finding mode. Here's the neuroscience. Setting massive goals activates your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information. Suddenly, you start noticing opportunities everywhere that were invisible before. The practical implementation requires 3 steps. First, write down your current income. Second, multiply it by 10. Third, create a detailed plan for how you would need to transform yourself to reach that number. This isn't about fantasy. It's about stretching your identity beyond its current limitations. People who implement the 10x Money Vision Report experiencing what psychologists call benign fear, excitement and anticipation, rather than paralyzing dread. Wealth coaches who work exclusively with entrepreneurs making over $50 million annually report that 92% of their clients use some version of the 10x Money Vision every morning before starting their day. The key insight: when your vision is big enough, the fear loses its power over you. Your brain becomes too preoccupied with possibility to entertain limitation. Method 3. The strategic risk portfolio. The ultra-wealthy think about risk completely differently than the average person. While most people avoid risk, the super successful create what experts call a strategic risk portfolio. This method transforms how you perceive and manage risk in your life and business. Here's the framework. Instead of viewing risk as something to be avoided, you intentionally allocate percentages of your resources to different risk categories. Peter Thiel, billionaire investor and PayPal co-founder, uses a version of this approach. He allocates about 70% of his resources to relatively safe investments, 20% to calculated risks, and 10% to what he calls crazy ideas that might change the world. The magic happens in that final category. Just one breakthrough in the high-risk portion of your portfolio can transform your entire financial future. The implementation is straightforward. First, list all your current projects and investments, then categorize them as safe, calculated risks, or moonshots. Most people discover they have nothing in the moonshot category, the exact area where massive wealth is created. Next, reallocate your time and resources to ensure you're taking enough intelligent risks. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means being strategic about where you place your bets. The psychological benefit is profound. When you know you've allocated resources appropriately across different risk categories, the fear of any single failure diminishes dramatically. You've built failure into your success model, which paradoxically makes success more likely. One study from the Journal of Financial Economics found that the wealthiest 1% allocate nearly 3 times more of their portfolio to higher risk investments than the middle class. Not because they can afford to lose more, but because they understand the mathematics of wealth creation. Here's why this works. When you take a calculated risk and lose, your downside is limited. But when you win, your upside can be infinite. This asymmetric risk-reward ratio is the foundation of every great fortune. Method 4. The Identity Shift Protocol. This method addresses the root cause of fear, your self-identity. Most people try to change their actions without changing who they believe themselves to be. This creates internal conflict that manifests as fear and self-sabotage. The Identity Shift Protocol was developed by psychologists working with Olympic athletes and later adapted for financial success by wealth coaches to the ultra-affluent. Here's how it works. Instead of trying to adopt new habits, you focus on becoming a different person altogether. You create detailed written statements that describe who you are becoming, not as future aspirations, but as current reality. For example, instead of saying, "I want to become wealthy," you write and repeatedly affirm, "I am a wealthy person who makes decisions based on abundance rather than scarcity." This isn't positive thinking, it's identity reconstruction. Your brain craves consistency between your actions and identity. When you change the identity first, your actions naturally follow. The implementation requires daily practice. Write your new identity statements, record yourself speaking them, and listen to this recording first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Use the present tense exclusively. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between reality and vividly imagined experiences. Darren Hardy, publisher of Success Magazine and mentor to many Fortune 500 CEOs, reports that the Identity Shift Protocol is the single most powerful method he's observed for eliminating fear in high-performing individuals. What makes this method truly transformative is that it bypasses your conscious mind and directly reprograms your subconscious, where fear originates. When your fundamental identity shifts, what once seemed terrifying becomes merely interesting. Research from the Neuro Leadership Institute shows that identity-based change is 5 times more effective than behavior-based change. This explains why so many people try to force themselves to take fearless action, but quickly revert to old patterns. Method 5. Strategic incompetence. This counterintuitive method is practiced by nearly every billionaire studied, yet rarely discussed publicly. Most people believe they need to be competent at everything. The ultra-successful practice, what experts call strategic incompetence. Here's the insight. Trying to be good at everything creates perpetual fear of inadequacy. Instead, identify the 1 or 2 things you could be exceptional at, then deliberately remaining competent at most other things. Warren Buffett calls this his 20-slot rule. He imagines having a punch card with only 20 slots for all the major decisions in his life. This forces him to focus intensely on what truly matters and ignore everything else. The implementation is straightforward, but requires brutal honesty. First, identify the 20% of activities that generate 80% of your results. Second, become deliberately incompetent at most everything else by outsourcing, automating, or eliminating these tasks. This liberates massive cognitive and emotional energy that most people waste trying to be adequate at everything. When you're strategically incompetent, you eliminate the fear of not measuring up across dozens of domains. Executive coaches who work with Fortune 100 CEOs observe that their most successful clients are comfortable saying, "I don't know," and "that's not my strength," far more often than average performers who try to appear competent at everything. The psychological freedom this creates is immense. When you consciously choose where not to compete, you eliminate the fear of inadequacy that plagues most high achievers. Method 6. The Wealth Thermostat Reset. This method addresses the unconscious beliefs about money that create financial fear and self-sabotage. Every person has what financial psychologists call a wealth thermostat, an unconscious setting that determines how much money you believe you deserve. When your income exceeds your internal thermostat setting, you'll unconsciously make decisions that bring you back to your comfort zone. This explains why lottery winners often lose everything and why many entrepreneurs sabotage their success just as they're breaking through. The Wealth Thermostat Reset involves 3 steps. First, identify your current financial comfort zone by examining patterns in your income history. Second, uncover the limiting beliefs creating this ceiling. Third, systematically replace these beliefs through specific cognitive restructuring exercises. T. Harv Eker, who has trained over 1.5 million people in wealth psychology, discovered that most people's wealth thermostats are set in childhood through observing their parents' relationship with money. These deep programs run silently in the background, creating fear whenever you approach the edge of your financial comfort zone. The implementation requires daily practice. Each morning, write your current net worth on a piece of paper. Cross it out and write a number 10 times larger. Then write detailed responses to the question, what kind of person would I need to become to be worthy of this new number? Over time, this exercise recalibrates your unconscious wealth thermostat. As your internal setting rises, the fear of larger numbers dissolves. What once seemed unattainable begins to feel like your natural state. John Paul DeJoria, billionaire, founder of Paul Mitchell and Patron Tequila, was once homeless. He attributes his success largely to resetting his wealth thermostat through similar practices before he had any external success. The key insight: financial fear often stems not from external circumstances but from exceeding your unconscious comfort zone. Reset the thermostat, and actions that once triggered fear become comfortable. Method 7. Controlled failure immersion. Most people's fear stems from avoiding failure at all costs. This method flips the script by making failure an intentional practice, rather than something to be avoided. Controlled failure immersion was developed by Special Forces military trainers and later adapted for business by high-performance coaches. It involves deliberately seeking situations where you will fail in controlled environments. then gradually increasing the stakes. Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx and self-made billionaire, credits her father's dinner table question, "What did you fail at today?" as foundational to her success. By celebrating failure as evidence of pushing boundaries, she developed immunity to fear. The implementation follows a progressive structure. Start by identifying low-stakes environments where you can practice failing without serious consequences. Perhaps it's public speaking at a small gathering, cold calling potential clients, or negotiating prices where refusal won't hurt you. Document each failure, focusing not on the emotional response, but on the objective lessons learned. Over time, your brain begins to associate failure with learning rather than pain. Some entrepreneurs make their entire executive teams take improv comedy classes. Why? Because improv forces you to fail publicly and recover immediately. After 6 weeks of this practice, executives report significantly lower fear responses when making high-stakes business decisions. Neuroscience research from Johns Hopkins University shows that controlled exposure to fear-inducing situations literally rewires your amygdala, reducing its reactivity to perceived threats over time. The insight here is profound. By intentionally seeking controlled failure, you inoculate yourself against the paralyzing fear that prevents most people from taking necessary risks for extraordinary success. Method 8. The Billionaire Time System. This method addresses the fear that comes from mismanaging your most precious resource, time. The ultra-wealthy approach time fundamentally differently than most people, and this difference eliminates massive amounts of anxiety and fear. The Billionaire Time System involves 3 core practices. First, value assignment, determining the true financial value of your time and refusing tasks below that threshold. Second, deep work blocks, scheduling uninterrupted 90-minute sessions for your highest value activities. Third, ruthless elimination of anything that doesn't serve your primary objective. Elon Musk famously uses a version of this system, breaking his day into 5-minute increments and constantly asking, is this activity transforming humanity's future? If not, it gets delegated or eliminated. The implementation begins with a time audit. Track every 30-minute block for 1 week. Then assign each activity a financial value based on its contribution to your wealth-building goals. Most people discover they spend over 80% of their time on activities worth less than $100 per hour, while neglecting more than $10,000 per hour opportunities. Once you've identified your highest value activities, schedule them during your peak energy periods and eliminate all distractions. This alone can double your effective output while reducing the fear that comes from perpetual time scarcity. Financial experts report that one hedge fund manager increased his annual income from $650,000 to over $4.3 million in 14 months using a version of this system. The key was identifying that investor meetings were worth over $25,000 per hour to him, while administrative tasks were worth less than $50. Yet he was spending equal time on both. The psychological benefit is immense. When you know you're focusing on genuinely high-value activities, the fear of missing out or wasting time evaporates. You develop unshakable confidence that you're doing exactly what you should be doing at all times. Method 9. The proximity principle. This method leverages the scientifically proven fact that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The proximity principle involves strategically engineering your social environment to eliminate fear and accelerate success. Most people's fears are reinforced by their peer group, which often unconsciously punishes growth and ambition. The ultra-wealthy, by contrast, ruthlessly curate their social circles to support their highest aspirations. The implementation involves 3 steps. First, conduct a relationship audit by listing the 5 people you spend the most time with and ranking their levels of success, optimism, and support for your goals. Second, strategically reduce time with people who reinforce fear-based thinking. Third, systematically increase proximity to those operating at your aspired level. This doesn't mean abandoning old friends entirely. It means being intentional about who influences your thinking. As the saying goes, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Dan Pena, the $50 billion Quantum Leap Advantage business strategy pioneer, attributes his success primarily to this principle. He says, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." The practical application includes joining masterminds, attending high-level conferences, hiring mentors who've achieved what you want to achieve, and creating structured accountability with peers who hold high standards. Research from the Journal of Social Psychology reveals that proximity to success-oriented individuals increases your probability of success by up to 95%, not just through knowledge transfer, but through unconscious adoption of their belief systems and elimination of limiting fears. The insight is simple yet profound. Fear is contagious, but so is courage. By strategically controlling who you allow into your mental and physical space, you can download the fearless mindset of ultra-successful people through consistent proximity. Method 10. The Quantum Growth Framework. This method addresses the fear of inadequacy that prevents most people from playing at world-class levels. The Quantum Growth Framework replaces incremental improvement with exponential transformation. Most people try to get 10% better at many things. The ultra-wealthy focus on becoming 10x better at one critical skill that creates disproportionate results. This approach was pioneered by tech billionaires who understood that exponential improvement in one key area creates compound returns across their entire life. The implementation begins with identifying your zone of genius, the intersection of your natural talents and market opportunity. Once identified, you commit to mastery through deliberate practice, investing at least 60-90 minutes daily in developing this singular capability. Jeff Bezos attributes Amazon's success partly to his relentless focus on customer experience, his chosen area for quantum improvement. Rather than trying to excel across all business functions equally, he built systems around his core strength. The psychological benefit is significant. When you know you're developing world-class capability in one area, the fear of competition or obsolescence diminishes dramatically. You transition from the scarcity mindset of being good enough to the abundance mindset of being exceptional. Executive coaches who work exclusively with founders of billion-dollar companies report that their clients universally focus on becoming the absolute best in a narrowly defined domain rather than competent across many areas. The neuroscience supports this approach. Deep expertise in one area creates neural connections that transfer to related domains, creating what scientists call adjacent possible breakthroughs, innovations that would be impossible without the depth of specialized knowledge. Method 11. The Anti-Fragile Wealth System. This method transforms how you structure your finances to eliminate the fear of loss that prevents most people from building significant wealth. The Anti-Fragile Wealth System, inspired by Nassim Taleb's work, creates financial structures that actually benefit from volatility and uncertainty rather than being damaged by them. Most people build fragile financial systems that collapse under pressure. The ultra-wealthy build anti-fragile systems that get stronger from the same conditions that destroy others. The implementation involves three components. First, creating multiple income streams with different risk profiles and correlation patterns. Second, maintaining strategic liquidity to capitalize on opportunities when markets crash. Third, structuring investments to benefit asymmetrically from market volatility. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates and worth over $20 billion, uses a sophisticated version of this approach. His all-weather strategy is designed to thrive regardless of economic conditions, eliminating the financial fear that plagues most investors. The practical application for individuals includes diversifying income across categories: active, business income, passive investments, creative intellectual property, etc. Maintaining 6 to 12 months of living expenses in strategic cash reserves, and allocating a portion of investments specifically to capitalize on market dislocations. Family office managers who work with ultra-high net worth individuals with $100+ million in assets reveal that their clients typically maintain 15–20% of their portfolio in highly liquid opportunity funds specifically designed to deploy when markets crash, precisely when most people are paralyzed by fear. The psychological freedom this creates is immense. when you know your financial system is designed to benefit from volatility rather than being damaged by it, the fear of economic uncertainty disappears. In fact, you begin to welcome market corrections as opportunities rather than threats. Method 12. The legacy mindset shift. This final method addresses the most profound fear of all, the fear that your life won't matter. The legacy mindset shift transcends conventional success by focusing on impact beyond your lifetime. While most people focus on accumulating, the ultra-wealthy focus on contributing, creating wealth for the primary purpose of solving significant problems and leaving a legacy that outlasts them. Chuck Feeney, who made billions as co-founder of Duty Free Shoppers, exemplifies this approach. He secretly gave away his entire $8 billion fortune during his lifetime to solve problems he cared deeply about. When asked why, he said, "I had one idea that never changed in my mind, that you should use your wealth to help people. The implementation begins with a profound question. If I achieved all my financial goals, what problem would I solve with that wealth?" Your answer reveals your true purpose beyond money itself. Once identified, you restructure your wealth-building activities around this deeper purpose. This might involve creating mission-driven businesses, strategic philanthropy, or building institutions that will outlast you. The psychological transformation is profound. When your primary motivation transcends personal gain, the fear of failure diminishes dramatically. Your focus shifts from what you might lose to what the world might lose if you don't succeed. Research from Harvard Business School shows that purpose-driven companies outperform profit-focused competitors by over 350%. In long-term shareholder returns, this isn't coincidence. It's the natural result of operating from a fear-transcending legacy mindset. Financial experts interviewed one billionaire who built a $4.7 billion business in just 7 years. When asked about his extraordinary risk tolerance, he explained that he doesn't experience his actions as risky because they're aligned with his legacy purpose. The fear of regret at not fulfilling his potential far outweighed any fear of failure. These 12 methods represent the concentrated wisdom of thousands of ultra-successful individuals who have mastered the art of eliminating fear. While each method is powerful alone, the true transformation comes from implementing them as an integrated system. Remember, fear isn't something to be eliminated entirely. It's a natural human response. What these methods do is transform your relationship with fear, using it as fuel rather than allowing it to become an obstacle. The journey from fear to fearlessness isn't a destination, but a daily practice. Each time you apply these methods, your fear response weakens while your courage strengthens. Consider this: every person you admire once stood exactly where you stand now, facing their fears and wondering if they had what it takes. The difference is they discovered methods like these to transform that fear into unstoppable momentum. The question isn't whether these methods work. They've created billions in wealth for those who apply them. The question is, will you be one of the rare individuals who actually implements them? The choice is yours. But know this: on the other side of fear lies everything you've ever wanted. And now you have the exact blueprint to get there. What will you do with it?